Hi guys, welcome to the Laura Studios, yet another Android programming tutorial. We'll be talking about background tags and services coupled with the broadcast receivers. Android provides platform support to execute with and without a user interface. An Android service is defined as an application component that is generally used to perform long tasks in the background without needing user input. Services could be used for a variety of purposes: to handle network transactions, to play audio music in background, to perform non-user input requiring input and output operations like backup, periodic downloads of certain types of data. We'll be creating a hydration app that reminds users of drinking a cup of water after some time interval while charging his or her device. We'll be using Firebase Job Dispatcher to schedule background jobs. What is a Firebase Job Dispatcher? This is a library for scheduling background jobs in Android application. We'll also be making reference to preferences to get the times of tapping for a water and when the notification is sent. Lastly, we will be using broadcast receiver to send a notification to take a cup of water. Without much ado, let's dig deep into the code and let's leave the theory for now. I'll actually be creating a new Android Studio project, which I'll be naming. Let's name it. Let's call it probably a broadcast receiver. No, job dispatcher, or let's call it a hydration app. Let's call it hydration app, which I would like it to sit right in the Android Studio projects. Next, phone and tablet. Go for an empty activity. Click on finish to actually set up this application, the module app session. So we need to include the dependency Firebase Job Dispatcher, because that's what is actually, that's the library that will be handling the background calls. So let's include this particular dependency. Firebase job dispatcher 0.5.2. That's fine. So we sync Gradle and get that set ready. From there, we'll be looking at the XML file, which is the activity main. That's the only layout file we'll be talking about. Right there in the layout, activity main. So we're actually going to make this a linear layout instead of a relative layout. We need it to be a linear layout. So I'll be changing this to linear. That's fine. And we'll assign an ID. Very important. Let's have a preview. Your background tags running. I sure you want to stop them and exit Android Studio. No, I'm not going to stop them. You can see the job dispatcher makes us know that yes, that is actually included. Android ID. Give it activity main. And we'll get to give a pattern, top, bottom, left, right, or set. That's fine. And the context is pointing at the main activity. The first text view, which the width over here should be match parent. Why the height wrap content, that's fine. We need to assign an ID. Android ID. instructions, and you give it Android, Gravity, Center, and the text will actually be calling the string. Get to create that now. Instructions. So let's get to create that right there in the strings XML. So we're going to have a couple of string values here. String. So here we go. We have strings for the app name. Let's just make the app name hydration app. And instructions we have for the water increment, content description. We have for the charging plug, content description, the default water count, the default charge notification count, and so on. Even for the charge notification count and for the charging reminder notification title and body. So we'll go straight back to our activity main and continue with the structure. After the text view, you're going to have a frame layout. Layout with night or match parent. This should be 0dp. Let's just maintain that. Bring this down. And we have an Android ID. Let's call that FL. Water increment. And layout width. Let's give the width. One. That's fine. Inside the frame layout, we're going to have image button. That's an image converted to a button. Layout with night or match parent. Let's assign an ID. Got IB. Water increment. On the background. Let's call the attributes. Selectable. Item background border should be borderless, right? Selectable item background borderless, and let's give an on-click listener to this, which is going to actually trigger this method increment water. Android padding. HTTP to the top, bottom, right to left. Android. Scale type. Feed sensor. And we have the source. Let's get the image from drawable. IC local green gray. So we have that set. I'll put the image button, and we need to add one more attributes. One more attributes here. Let's give Android content description and string. Water increment content description. That's fine. So we have our image button set. Right inside the frame layout, we're still going to have a linear layout. Let with an height match parent. And the rotation should be vertical. Draw the rotation vertical. And we're going to have a view which actually will be centering the text view within the image. Let's have the view. Layout with night. Let's wrap the content. And we're going to the view. Let's just make it, or instead of wrapping the content, let's make it 0dp. 0dp. And we need to actually set the weight. Layout weight 64. And visibility, 100 visibility to invisible. After that, we'll need a text view. It should wrap the content. So this text view is just an ID. TV underscore water underscore count. And does the counting of how many times you actually took a cup of water. Android layout gravity sender should be text. It's called the string. Default water count. And let's give it text color. Just give just a darker gray for 2. That's a darker gray, and the size, Android text size of 35 sp. We have the set, the lines. Now we're going to have the last view. Layout with night, let's maintain 0dp. 0dp. And the Android layout width 36. Android visibility invisible. We have that closed. That's the end of the frame layout. Now we're going to have the relative layout. Relative layout, wrap content. So right inside here, we'll assign an ID. We'll call FL charge increment. Right inside the relative layout, we have image view. Wrap content. Now we'll also assign an ID to this image view. of that iv underscore power increment. And we give a description, string, or I'll call charging, log content description, and the source, driver, IC, power, great, that's fine. So that sets it all. We now have a text view. Text view, layout with night, wrap content. Right inside this text view, we need an ID. I'll call it TV, charging, reminder, count, and we give 100, layout, send a vertical, just get a look at it, send a vertical to be true, Android, layout, margin end, margin end, 16 dB, Android, layout, margin right, 16 dB as well. We have Android, layout, to end off. Now we call the ID, IV, power increment, Android, layout, to write off, the same identifier, IV, power increment, and we give a text, Android text, string, default, charge notification count. That sets it all. We have it set right there, the linear layout. Oh, a quick look. Okay, there's an orientation, vertical. Can you see that everything gets displayed, or the image view, which is for the first linear layout, they're all sitting right inside an outer linear layout. If you notice the frame layout, that's for the frame layout up to this extent for this particular image, which actually followed by the relative layout, which is actually with a text, hydrate while charging, reminder sent, is keeping track of the times, how many times reminder might have been sent. This is the cap to actually trigger the notification. So that's that for the activity main. We'll be looking at the Java classes. We actually have some packages which we'll be talking about right there. We'll talk about the sync, utilities, and that's the two packages we'll be looking at in the Java classes. So we're going to create them. New directory should be, it's a new package. I will call that sync. Okay, right there in sync, we're going to have some classes. What about we're talking about the first one? Right there will be the reminder tax. We're going to have its utilities, reminder, utilities, and we're going to also have another class which is actually going to be the water reminder for the fire-based job service. I'm going to call it water reminder fire-based job service as the service, the background tax we're talking about. And the last class right there in the sync package will be the water reminder intent service. Reminder intent service. That's that for the sync. Let's get to have the utilities package. Utilities. In the utilities, we're going to be talking about the notification and the preferences. We're going to have notification, utils, and we're going to also have preference utilities. That's fine. So we first of all look at the main activity, which is actually the launcher. So from here, we're going to talk about other classes. Back to the main activity. This extends a compact activity and it must implement the shared preferences, which actually called on shared preference change listener. So that's that. We have some fields which will be created in a GV private text view called mwater can display. We have another one, private text view called mcharging can display. Private image view mcharging image view. We have private toasts, mtoasts. That's for toast message. That's fine. We're also going to have charging broadcasts receiver called charging receiver. We're going to talk about the intent filter, call it charging intent filter. That's fine. Now we have the onCreate that actually sets the content view to the activity main that we've just finished. Now let's get the views. First, mwater count display, initialize the views text view, find view by ID, ID, TV water count. That's what the count is in. The next one is the charging and charging count display. Also text view. Find view by ID. That's ID. That's TV charging reminder count. We're going to have for M charging image view. It's going to be image view. Castle image view. Find view by ID. R ID. IV power increment. So now let's set the original values in the UI. We're going to call on this method, which will be creating update water count, creating them underneath. We're going to call on the update charging reminder count. Also, we're going to call reminder utilities. Call on schedule charging reminder. What about we'll pass this keyword, call on the schedule charging reminder. Never mind with this. Let's just continue. Now let's set up the shared preferences listener. Because shared preferences, give it an object prefs equals to preference manager get default shared preferences, this class, and we call the prefs object to register on shared preference change listener to this class. That sets the preferences. Now we're going to set up and register the broadcast receiver. So we call the M charging intent filter instantiate with a new intent filter. We call the receiver instantiate the new charging broadcast receiver. And we call the M charging intel filter by adding the action intent action power power. Just type it. Action power connected, and close that right there. Just to call on the M charging intel filter. We add another action. So this time will be disconnected. Action power disconnected. That's fine. So we're going to have the on resume, the on pause, and we're still going to have some other methods right there. So just follow along on how we're going to achieve all this. Let me just need a breakpoint. Just need some space. Now I'm going to have right protected void on resume. As the life cycle of this particular activity, we call the super Resume. And now we're going to determine the current charging state. So we're actually going to check if you're on Android M or later. That's the version of device you're using. So it's going to be build version SDK integer. Let's import this. If it's greater than or equals to the build version codes, which is M, the code of the version. Can you see all 100 version, Jelly Bean, Donut, and so on. 100M. We're actually going to call the battery manager. An object which is equals to battery manager. Now we get system service, which is the battery service. Now we're going to show charging. Battery manager, which is actually going to call this charging, just to check if the phone is charging. Because we're actually going to trigger the notification while the phone is charging. Else we're going to actually create a new interfilter, which the action is going to be action battery change. This is actually a sticky broadcast that contains a lot of information about the battery state. So let's create the filter, intent filter. Let's call it iFilter, which will be instantiated with a new intent filter. Now we'll pass the action. Action battery changed. That's fine. We're also going to set a new intent object, which is going to equal to what is returned by the register receiver. But we need to pass null for the receiver, and we're going to pass into the intent filter as well. So we're going to pass null. That means you are getting the current state of the sticky broadcast. The intent is going to return what it contains, which is actually the battery information you need. So that's for the next intent, which is the current battery status intent, which is actually register receiver. First of all, pass null and the iFilter. That's this way. So let's set the integer extra battery manager. The battery status goes to the current battery status intent. Whenever we get the int extra, we're going to pass the battery manager, which is actually going to call the extra status. The decrement. Close that right there. Now we have the boolean of if it's charging or not. It's charging. It goes to the battery status is equals to, we call the battery manager to get us the battery status change. charging, charging, or the battery status is equals to, it's called the battery manager to get us the battery status full if it's full. Any one of it, either full or charging. That's charging. Now we're going to update the UI using the show charging method. So we call the show charging. If we have not created, we get to create it later on. Never mind. We pass in is charging as a parameter. So let's continue now. Outside this, which is the else, we need to register the receiver for future state changes. Now we call the register receiver, pass M charging receiver. Likewise, the M charging insert field, M charging receiver, M charging insert field. That's fine. Let's move on. Let's have the onResume method. Just collapse this just to make reference to that later on. Let's have the onResume method. Protected void onResume, on pause rather, on pause. Call the super on pause. Now we call the onRegister receiver, passing the M charging receiver as parameter. I still having issues with the charging broadcast receiver. We'll get to clear that out later on. Now we need to update the text view to display the new water count from shared preferences. Now we have a private method void, which is called update water count. You can see it's actually needed. Now we have the integer, which is the water count, equals to the preference utilities to assist us in getting water count. This class. Now we need the M water count display, set text to water count, concatenate with a space. What's that? The set. Now let's also update the text view to display the new charging reminder count from shared preferences. There's also another private void, not returning value. Update charging reminder count. I needed. We've actually passed them into the onCreate method. We have the integer charging reminders equals to the preference utilities. Let's get charging reminder count. Get to create that in the preferences. Count. This class. Now let's have the string formatted. Charging reminders. We actually need to get resources. Get quantity string. You can see that there. Now we call the plurals charge notification count. charging reminders. Let's call it one more time again. And close it right there. Now we'll still call the M charging count display. Set the text. Formatted charging reminders. That's fine. That's for the updating the charging reminder count. Now we need to add one to the water count and show a toast. So let's get to fix that. Don't need this here. It's going to be a public method void. We call it increment water. Takes in a view. Got to import the view. That's on click. It's actually, if you notice, we have this increment water right there in the activity main. I think we can still remember when we're going to click this button. So that's handling this. So we're going to first of all call it toast. And toast. Null equals to null. And toast. Cancel. Now the value for the toast. So let's make it text. These string water toast. You're going to have the length of the toast. That's short or long. It should be short. So we stick out to show the toast. We need to add the show toast. Now, after this, we'll pass an intent. For the increment water count intent. I'm going to instantiate with the new intent. This class. Pass into the water reminder intent service class. Now we'll call the increment water count. Set action. Reminder tags. This time the action increment water count. Never mind. Start service. Instead of starting intent, you start service because it's actually going to happen at the background. It's not actually running on the main thread. So that's the difference. But the main thread is starting this service, but not running there. Now we're going to have the undestroyed, the shared preferences, and some other methods. Let's quickly cover that as well. That's override, protected, void, destroy method, destroy the life cycle of this activity. We're going to call on the super on destroy, and we need to clean up the shared preference listener. So we still call the shared preferences preference manager. I call on get default shared preferences. Let's pass this pass as the context. Now we still need a prefs to unregister on shared preference chain listener to this class. That's fine. So now we have a listener that will update the UI when the water count or charging reminder counts change. So the main preferences must be overridden. So we override public void on shared preference changed. But we'll pass shared preferences, the object, and the key. If you still remember, shared preferences is always stored in a key. So that's why we're referencing the key there. Now we call the preference utilities. We call the key water. We get to create all this right there in the preferences. Count. If it's equals to key is equal, what we're gonna do, we need to update the water count. So we need this method anytime is equals, else if reference utilities key charging reminder counts is equals to the key. What we're gonna do, we're going to update the charging reminder count. So those are the two methods that will be passed in, and let's call the show charging. It's going to be private void show charging. It's actually a boolean. It's charging. If it's charging, we're going to call mCharging image view to set image resources, what we'll call the drawable. It's IC power pink, this one. Now else called mCharging image view set image resource are drawable IC power gray this time. That's fine. Now we're going to have one more method, which is actually going to be a class, private class, an inner class rather, charging for the broadcast receiver. Broadcast receiver, that extends broadcast receiver. Now we need to override public void on receive class, contexts, and intent. Call the string action by get action, and also the boolean is charging action equals intent action power connected. Got it? Now we call show charging. We pass its charging as parameter. That's for the broadcast receiver. So we still get to write some codes, write in the preference utilities to get the water count and also to get charging reminder counts. That's the two methods remaining for the main activity to be cleared out of errors. So in the second part of this tutorial, we'll be covering the other aspect of the code, the reminder tasks, the utilities, file-based job dispatch, notification utilities, and also the preference utilities. Don't go anywhere. Hang out and look forward to the second part of this tutorial. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful time.